My name is Benson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer with an organisation called Ruhama. For those of you who wouldn't be familiar with our work, we work with women affected by prostitution, including women who are victims of sex trafficking. And I was delighted and felt very privileged to be asked by Susan to participate in today's event, and a very happy International Women's Day to you all. And when Anne sent me the photos, this is one I picked. Initially though, I did go trawling through them just to see which one I could hang my violence against women platform on, which would be my normal course of action, but actually this one made me stop, and I reflected on it last night just while I was having a cup of tea, and decided to take a slightly different approach to the exercise. I don't know what it says about me, given that some people have already speculated as to what's happening here, but the memory that came to mind when I looked at this was one which involved my mother imparting a particular knowledge, so I suppose it does involve teaching, to myself and my little sister many, many years ago, and it actually was teaching us how to play conkers. And for those of you who wouldn't be familiar, that's a game involving the fruit of the horse chestnut tree, where you drill a little hole in the chestnuts and tie a string through them and face off against your adversary, and literally whack the living daylights out of each other's conkers until one of them is destroyed. And it was a very important game and a very big part of our autumns when we were children, and we grew up in Deliri, very near a small little park called Davisi, which has some beautiful chestnut trees still, and we used to go down, and the very first time she brought us down and showed us what it was all about. It was like a revelation, and it became a fantastic pastime for years afterwards with the neighbourhood kids. So where I reflected further was just thinking about the kind of things that the women in my life have, particularly the older women in my life, have shared with me by way of kind of skills and teachings, and I got to thinking about my two grandmothers, my nan, who I sadly don't have anymore, but my granny, who I'm blessed to still have in my life, and just thought about those simple things that they did just as a matter of course in terms of their involvement with me as a young woman in their lives. And my nana, for instance, taught me how to make pastry. I'm very good at making pastry, and I also inherited my very poor circulation from her, which is very helpful to have cold hands when you're making pastry. And my grandmother taught me how to plant things and not to kill them, and those two things actually sustained me. They're very stereotypical, very traditional things that are associated with girls and women, but you know, my garden is where I go, and I love to throw out a batch of apple tart. So what did strike me though is that there's millions of women do this with millions of girls every day, excuse me, and it's happening right now. But what also happens in those moments is the older women create opportunities not only to impart the practical skill, but there's silences and there's moments in the teaching and in those moments where you're getting your hands dirty, where they impart more kind of complex, deeper knowledge and wisdom, which sustains us and helps us to grow and develop as women. And for instance, I think of a time when I was sitting in the middle of a heather flower bed with my granny picking out weeds, and she shared at that moment the daunting experience that she had delivering one of her 5 children alone in a bedroom in the house where I grew up, just through an unfortunate set of circumstances, but just very calmly speaking about the way that she pulled together you know, the necessary strength of will just to get what needed to be done despite the panic and the pain and the sense of isolation. And while making gingerbread men with my nana, learning about, you know, her experience in the 30s as one of a very small group of women in University College Dublin who were studying commerce, and just how different it was with the Dean of Women students at that point, whose role was literally to chaperone women and make sure that they were neither molested nor got involved with the male student body at the time. And then my mother, I remember painting the sitting room rose white in our house in Deliri, and in between the brush strokes, her very gently and without any kind of judgment or advice about it, just floating out gentle questions, exploring what might a respectful relationship look like at a particular point in my life where I was in a relationship that looked like it actually could be going quite bad. And so many of these wisdoms and teachings came from their own bitter experience and their hard learning, and it has definitely made me a better woman. I'm a stronger woman today, and I suppose it's quite poignant and relevant to me on International Women's Day to reflect as the mother of a young daughter, and indeed a son who will be a good man. But it is incumbent on me, and that word responsibility is there. It's not at any moment of crisis, but just all the time. The way that women share and impart not only the practical skills, but those skills that help us grow and go from strength to strength as individual women. And they don't have to be relatives. I'm sure that everyone in the room could think of at least one woman who has imprinted something on their lives. And I suppose that's what I wanted to convey today. And I think it behoves us to think of those women when we're celebrating such a remarkable achievement as 100 years of this particular day. Thank you.